Hey everybody, so I was too lazy to write an opening skit for you guys this week, so instead I'm just going to read the last few pages of the One Piece chapter while I drink this conveniently placed glass of water. So, yeah, just bear with me here and we'll get to the review right after this. Stop with the face! Alright then. Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, here to review Bleach chapter number 574, entitled Death in Vision. How do you die in Vision exactly? Anyway, so the chapter starts off with a bunch of random members of Squad 11 that somehow have managed to not get killed by the Stern Raiders. You figure those would be like the first people that would end up getting killed, considering they're the fact of just, you know, oh, maybe we should retreat and try to figure out a way to take on the Quincy's from behind, or maybe we should formulate a new strategy. No, fucking man, we're Squad 11! Charge in for the battlefield! You know, you figure those guys would be the first one to get a Basby burning stomp in the freaking chest, but no, apparently there's still some around, and they're staring up at the massive, lame stadium thing that Gremmy imagined last chapter, where they are noticing that their captain, Kenpachi Zaraki's Ryatsu, is emanating from the top of it. So they all get rallied up because they're just like, oh yeah, this is Captain Zaraki, you know, there's no way we can lose now. Victory's in the freaking bag, right? So they're all chanting for Zaraki, like, below the thing, and while they're at the top of the stadium, Kenpachi is just kind of staring down Gremmy from last chapter, and he's hearing all this chanting. And, you know, under normal circumstances, you know, the chanting of your subordinates, you know, like, Zaraki, Zaraki, you know, going on, that would make you stronger. Kenpachi just don't give a fuck. He just is standing there just being like, oh wow, those guys, they don't know how to shut up. You know, they're always like this. I'm always such a freaking god figure to them. Whatever. But anyhow, Gremmy takes a good opportunity of this situation by comparing it to his own powers, because he's stating, like, well, your subordinates are all chanting for your victory. In their minds, this battle's already been decided, like, you're going to defeat me. Such is the freedom of imagination. So, you know, he's going back on his imagination kick again. We also see that epic, you know, cut that Kenpachi did last chapter, where he tries to cut Gremmy, and he's just like, oh, I'm made of steel, and Kenpachi just proceeds to almost, like, it looked like he, like, slashed off his arm last chapter quite easily, but it doesn't matter, because now all traces of any wound have been gone. Even if, you know, even like the blood on his sleeve that would have existed is now gone. See, I take little things like that in. That's just how I notice, you know, but the blood on the ground is still there, so I don't know if that has some connection to anything. But anyway, his arm is fully healed now. And you can tell Kenpachi, analyzing your opponent with the weird powers is not really his strong suit. He's always used to just the hack and slash. Like, remember when he fought Tozen, and he was just like, oh man, this is such a boring-ass Bonkai that steals away the senses. I can't fight like I normally do here. So you can tell, just in this panel here, that he's, like, straining to try to maybe analyze what's going on. Like, he's like the freaking Terminator or something. Can you maybe... processing 36%, 72%, 100%. Can you heal yourself? And his response to this is just like the ambiguity of everything else he does. He's just like, maybe I can, maybe I can't. It's all based on imagination. You know, it's getting to the point. This kid always keeps like the smug face every single time he's saying, I don't know if smug's the right word. He's just like this constant like, you're gonna die. I don't know what's going on. Like the last chapter when Kenpachi made that bold declaration, like, there's nothing I can't cut, I'm the Kenpachi. We had that one very brief scene where it seemed like Gremmy's facial expression finally changed, and that's apparently immediately lost on him. But anyway, Kenpachi just kind of... Interesting thing, though, is how Gremmy exactly... I mean, he's very ambiguous, but he also kind of, like, the way he says it, you know, Kenpachi asks him, can you heal yourself? And Gremmy doesn't give him an answer. He's just kind of like, I don't know, did I? Because my heals... I guess my wound just might have healed just because based on my imagination. So it's almost like Gremmy was not aware of it. He wasn't like aware that he healed himself. I mean, he could just be playing with Kenpachi just because that's how he is. But it's almost like, do you ever do that where you like come up with your own reality to kind of cope with something? Like I do this all the time. Like let's say you meet somebody like a cute girl or something that you really like and you end up saying something really freaking stupid that kind of might turn her off. You know, after I'm done with that conversation, I immediately like blot it out of my brain like, oh my god, I can't believe I said that. Oh wait, no I didn't. No, I didn't say it. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. It's fine. She didn't hear me, whatever. I didn't say it, it's cool. So, you know, maybe that's how he is. He puts himself in this headspace like, wound? What wound? I didn't get hurt. You know, and that's maybe how he activates his power. But anyway, Kenpachi just kind of gives him the death stare and doesn't really think much of it. Meanwhile, we cut back to the 11th Division members that are kind of still cheering Zaraki on, and one of them, you know, who's probably, I mean, they're all probably a couple curly short of a Three Stooges, but one of them kind of brings up this this explanation on exactly how Kenpachi got there. He starts asking everybody, don't you think it's a bit strange that we just noticed Kenpachi's Ryatsu right now fighting, and they're just like, well, yeah, he showed up on the battlefield. He's like, no, that's not what I mean. This massive stadium thing wasn't here a while ago, so for this to be here now, Kenpachi had to already be on it when it rose up. Why did not we sense our captain's Ryatsu when he first showed up on the battlefield? So, I mean, this is actually a good explanation, because all the members of Squad 11, they're used to being around Zaraki. They would know his Ryatsu. Now, Zaraki's never been really good at controlling his Ryatsu or spiritual pressure. It's always been, like, emanating around him, like, suffocating, even when he has been containing it with his eye patch and whatnot. So maybe it's like they're so used to this massive amount of Ryatsu just pouring out of him, which is clearly what he's doing now, because he's in a fight. But maybe after his Unohana fight, he managed to learn how to restrain his power. Or maybe through his Zanpakuto, he managed to restrain his power a little bit. Maybe not mask it completely, but he was able to tone it down enough so that the members of his squad that are so used to this massive outpour wouldn't notice like a little trickle. You know, they wouldn't notice him just popping up. They're so used to this big grandiose entrance. Or maybe other option, he's just able to like mask his power level like in DBZ with the scatter. He's like, oh my god, Vegeta, his power level's only like 5. We could take this idiot out, no problem. And then turns out like he punches him in the face and then he just sends him to the next continent, you know, so maybe it's something like that, I don't know. Go back to the stare down, and Gremmy is just kind of berating Zaraki right now, just being like, you know, people like you can never understand my power. You're not very creative. You don't have an ounce of, you know, imagination in your body. You're just, you know, you're a one-track mind based on killing. You're a mindless animal. And that's my power works on you the most, because you're easily influenced. That makes a lot of sense, how the ones that are, like, they don't use as much brain power can be more influenced by, like, hypnosis and this shit. You know, like Luffy from One Piece. That happens with him really easily. And Kenpachi's kind of just like, well, it's not like I don't want to understand your powers, it's just that I don't give a fuck. You know, it's like, I'm gonna cut you down regardless of whatever you do to me, so it doesn't matter. So he charges into the battle. We get the title page, 574, Death in Vision. Then we cut back to this massive freaking eruption. That's actually the right term to use there, because it's a massive eruption of scalding hot lava that's coming out of the freaking top of the stadium, just emanating from around Gremmy's. Kenpachi's just kind of staring on like, hey, is that lava? And Gremmy's just like, do you think it is? Like, Kenpachi, dude, I think you're not, you know, as serious as you should be. Do you know what just happened? Do you realize what he just did? Gremmy just had the power to freaking summon Akainu from One Piece. You should be a little bit more, you know, threat level raising now. Now he just got badass. Actually, that would be a really cool fight. Who wants to see that? Hands raised. So Kenpachi, without any hesitation, just rushes toward freaking Gremmy with his sword and manages to cut the Magma in half. Actually, it's only called Magma when it's below the surface. The fuck did you come from? Okay. Yeah, right, whatever. So yeah, just for recap, he cuts a multi-thousand degree temperature semi-solid in a perfect vertical, you know, sections. That's just freaking awesome. Anyway, in the midst of all this, he notices that Yachiru's still there. Now, funny, I know she was in the platform when it got raised, but I thought Isane and her got, like, chucked off the side. That might have just been Isane and, like, Kensei and Rose that she was holding on to, but I thought it was Yachiru. But anyway, she's just kind of, like, hanging out there, not really moving, and Kenpachi's just like, dude, what are you doing, Yachiru? Move out of here. And Gremmy goes on to reiterate what happened with her previously, because obviously Zaraki was not there during the majority of their fight. He states that I turned all her bones to cookies, therefore she can't move. And then there's like a little bit discrepancy here. It's kind of funny where Kenpachi's just like, cookies, what the hell are those? And Gremmy's just like, oh, you don't know what cookies are? Well, they're kind of like the little, okay, what about hard candies? Like, oh, you mean those tea cake looking things? Like, oh, right, of course, he knows what those are. So, okay, so Kenpachi just lost a couple points for me there because he doesn't know what cookies are, but he does know what candies and tea cakes are. You know, I wonder what kind of candies that Kenpachi Zaraki would eat. Rare candies? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Those things are awesome. Gotta be careful when you use them, though. You just can't dope your Pokemon up on them because that won't, you know, they'll do hell for their EV stats. But anyway, so yeah, after this little discrepancy with what kind of dessert that Gremmy turned Yachiru's bones into, Zaraki just jumps into the fray because he's tired of all this freaking annoying bullshit, goes to attack Gremmy, and in midair, he summons okay, great. He can use ninjutsu now, too. This is just freaking lovely. Suiten! What a prison no jutsu! Actually, you know what? That would be a pretty badass battle, too. Okay, who's for it? Hands raised. Okay, so remember last chapter when I was complaining that Gremmy, you know, despite the fact that he had the ability to basically conjure anything he wants and he could just mess with somebody, I mean, maybe not directly like organic, you know, organic creatures, because there's like what's preventing him from just like cutting Zaraki in half whenever he wants to, or like in 1,000 pieces if he wants to, or turning him into jelly. It's always been like affecting the area around them. So basically, I was complaining that he wasn't doing anything too creatively, like, oh, he raised the ground a couple of stories, like, oh yeah, I can make my raincoat super hard like steel, you know. There's not really a lot of creativity here. This is the kind of shit I'm talking about. Summoning lava out of nowhere, you know, trapping your enemy in a giant water prison in the middle of the air. That's pretty cool. And then he proceeds to take advantage of Zaraki's kind of hesitation from, like, because, you know, you go from, you know, like gliding through the air to being trapped in water with, you know, the advanced buoyancy there. So he's hesitated for a little bit. So Gremmy just, like, uses, like, tact or something and, like, drives him right into this giant crevice that was in the ground that he created. And he then immediately proceeds to close the crevice up like nothing was there and fill that with water as well. Because with his mind, he's like, Gremmy, I mean, in terms of battle power, Kenpachi's probably going to win quite handily, and maybe Gremmy's aware of that, but he's like, well, it doesn't matter how strong you are or how strong you've gotten. There are still certain faculties that you need to have in order to live. Like, for example, air. You need to breathe. It doesn't matter how freaking badass you are, how much you trained, Shikai, Bonkai, I don't care what you have, you still need to breathe air, so you probably only last about 1 hour down there. However, Gremmy is forgetting the very important aspect of Kenpachi's character there. He might need air in order to breathe, but in order to get to that place, you need to trap him first, and one does not simply trap Kenpachi Zaraki anywhere. Like, ever. So, yeah, as this could figure, he just breaks out of the freaking prison quite easily. He sends a giant freaking boulder the size of Gremmy's body towards him, but he just, you know, phases that away using his power. Kenpachi jumps up right behind him. He might have used that boulder as a distraction, like, oh, he'll phase this away, and then I'll sneak up behind it. But then Gremmy summons this, I guess it's like a giant, I'm assuming it's like I'm envisioning it like a giant steel pillar that he just, like, imagines right in front of him that manages to block Kenpachi's sword. And he's holding Ichiru now, and he's like, well, I'm holding Ichiru right now, and she's obviously fine. I mean, her bones aren't breaking when I'm carrying her. Therefore, I guess I found out a weakness in your power because you can't focus on two people at the same time. So there, that's how the chapter ends, and I'm like, then Gremmy does his smirk, whatever. He doesn't change his expression that much, but okay, that's a good one right there. So, you know, of course, I've been saying there has to be a cap on this power. There has to be a cork. You can't just do whatever whenever he wants to. And this is a perfect one. In order for his powers to work, he has to stay focused on whatever target he wants to afflict his imagination on. So, when he was fighting against Yachiru, he could inflict all his power on there, because that was the only person he was fighting. I mean, Isane was in the room too, but he didn't care about her. When Kenpachi showed up, he has to kind of pay all of his attention to him, because, you know, lava didn't work, water prison jutsu didn't work, you know, sending him into a crevice and burying him, that didn't, with the earth style, that didn't work. So he has to kind of pay all of attention to him, and he's not paying Yachiru a second mind. Actually, I have a really good way of explaining this to you guys. We're going to do a little experiment here. I'm going to continue talking, and while I'm talking, I'm going to throw up some text on the screen, and I want you guys to try to follow what I'm saying as well as reading the text, and it's going to be on two different subject matters, okay? And odds are you're probably not going to be able to do it even if you focus really hard, because the human brain really can't follow two different kinds of sensory input at the exact same moment. So yeah, we're just going to talk really quick about, I don't know, Ichigo's new swords. Okay, so his new swords, he's got them right there. I don't know if he's going to do like Getsuga Tensho with them. I mean, he might have a new attack. I mean, some people are saying he's going to like fuse them together to make like a Quincy bone. And that would really be cool when Uryu and Ichigo start fighting, because then he's going to whip out his Quincy bone. Maybe Uryu's going to have some new attack. Maybe he's going to, I don't know, go into his new Volt standing mode. I wonder if it's going to look like his Volt standing that he used against Mayuri, this Let's Steal, you know, but it's going to have some awesome new appearance there, because that Ichigo Uryu fight, it's going to happen at some point in the series, whether we like it or not, I don't really know. But yeah, so new Getsuga Tensho's definitely like an X-shaped Getsuga. That'd be really cool if that happens. Maybe Ichigo could, I don't know, go Hollow Mask, because we haven't really seen him do Hollow Mask in a while. Maybe he goes into Hollow Berserker plus his new swords, like his swords like fused to his hands like that Hollow did with Misaki. That'd be really cool. But yeah, so that'd be pretty awesome if that happened. So, yeah, explain to me what those two different phrases were about there. It might be a little bit more difficult. If I had more time to come up with something more elaborate, maybe it would have been more difficult. Those were two very basic subject matters. But anyway, so that's the end of the chapter. And granted, although it might be a flaw in his ability, it's not exactly a flaw in his ability that's going to directly affect his fight with Kenpachi. Because this kind of flaw only really helps it when he's fighting against more than one person. Like, if Yachiru and Kenpachi were coming at them, he wouldn't be able to divvy out his power between both of of them equally. He would have to focus more on Kenpachi in that sense, obviously. Which, who knows? Maybe that's what they're going to do. Maybe Ichiro and they're going to, like, double team, and they'll finally see how they fight together. But this flaw is not really going to affect, you know, the battle at all, from my perspective, if it stays the way it is right now, because it doesn't matter if, you know, if he can't affect, you know, more than one person, if he only has to affect one person, and that's Kenpachi. So, yeah, that's how that's going. Maybe he'll finally release... My collar's been up this entire time, hasn't it? Okay, well, anyway, so maybe that's what he's going to do. Maybe something... So, maybe Kenpachi's going to do, maybe now, his Shikai. I mean, I kind of hesitate to say that because, you know, he hasn't done that yet, but hey, he's coming back from the battle. I really can't see any other way this fight's going to end except him breaking out his new Shikai ability and actually, like, slicing him up into cubed ice bacon. But, you know, it's a good idea. It's a good idea that Kenpachi, of all people, figured out the flaw of his power. I mean, I'm sure none of us saw that coming. Like, if there was a flaw in this guy's power, he would either reveal it himself, or we get, like, a third-person perspective, like we cut back to, like, Basby, who's, like, watching the fight, and it's like, oh, yeah, that Gremmy, he gets too confident in his skills, you know, smug freaking kid, you know, something like that. What is going on with Basby? We haven't really seen him. I'm glad he's still around. I'm glad he didn't get killed yet. But, yeah, he kind of, like, left after his fight with Toshiro, and he's just kind of, like, walking around the Seirei. I don't know. But, yeah, so that's the end of Chapter 574. Next chapter, continue the fight a little bit, maybe get some epic, you know, Shikai ability action at the end of the chapter. I don't know, maybe, possibly, Kubo, maybe if you want to give that shout out. You know, I just figured that's what it is, maybe. Maybe that's what Gremmy is. He's not Yukio, he's not, you know, Unzen from Medaka Box. He's just the manga version of Kubo. Kubo drew himself in the series as Gremmy in order just to kind of, like, you know, like that episode of, like, the old episodes of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck from the Looney Tunes show? Remember that episode where Daffy Duck was, like, he's just going about his business, and then that giant pencil came down and, like, erased him, and just, like, fucking with him generally, like, doing it, like, drawing him in different outfits and, like, a skirt and shit, and it turned out at the end of the episode it was, like, Bugs who was doing it the whole time, like, sitting at the writer's chair. That's what I imagine Gremmy is in, like, Kubo's position. Like, Kenpachi's just like, oh, I'm gonna attack you, and, like, Kubo's like, no, you're not, like, I have the pen here, bitch. But yeah, just be grateful that stuff doesn't happen in real life. That would be really messed up. So anyway, this is Tekking101 signing out. I hope you... Oh, God. No. No, please, Matt, don't do it! Please, I have so much more to do! Please, no!